So to give everybody a little background, what's going on at the border, because it's all over the news.
Yes.
But people don't understand why legally this is all happening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Why
and
it's allowed,
there's two things at play here. One, there is the Constitution of the United States, and two, there is criminal penalties under federal law. So let's start with criminal penalties. I have always said, since the day my show started back in 1999 on the radio, it is not a crime to be out of status in America. You could be in the United States out of status. It is not a crime. The fact of being an illegal alien in America is not criminal. It is a civil offense in which they will deport you.
Right.
There is on the books that has never, ever, ever been enforced a federal misdemeanor, which is the smallest crime you can commit in the federal penal law, which is you can get life sentences. A federal misdemeanor, the maximum sentence is 6 months in jail. It's like stealing I don't know, a stick of gum from the newspaper stand. I mean, that's how minor it is.
Right.
Right.
Okay? It has never been enforced. The act of entering the United States without inspection, not coming on a passport and overstaying your time, the act of entering the United States without inspection is a federal misdemeanor that has never, ever been, that's been on the books, but has never been, nobody's ever been charged ever in the history of America.
Okay.
Okay.
Until last month.
Wow.
Okay, so now, last month, Donald Trump, Jeff Sessions, they decided we are going to charge people that we catch literally running across the border as a criminal. And we
Wow.
are going to charge them with a federal misdemeanor, which carries a maximum of 6 months in jail, which is, ask any criminal defense lawyer, any penal law where the maximum sentence is 6 months in jail is literally like is so small. It's like
Right.
the equivalent of stealing gum from the newspaper stand.
Right.
Okay. So now they catch somebody running across the border with children.
Mm-hmm.
They're not charging the children with a crime, but they're charging their parents with a crime. And they are taking the parents and putting them in criminal jail. And then they are detaining the children in what they consider detention camp, which is basically another jail.
Oh.
And separating the parents from the children.
Mm-hmm.
The parents are being charged criminally. The children sit in a detention camp. Now, because they were apprehended at the border, the Constitution does not apply.
Wow.
So they don't have many constitutional rights.
Rights.
So we have two things.
Oh my God.
You have two things at play here. One is the fact that they are now charging the act of entering the United States, being caught entering the United States, as a crime. So I don't want anyone to freak out.
Right.
If you are already in the United States and you have overstayed, you're illegal, you're out of status, you're walking around the streets of New York or Philadelphia, nobody has caught you in the act of running across the border.
Right.
You
Right.
can't be charged criminally for that. You can't be charged criminally for just being here out of status.
Okay.
You could only be charged criminally being caught in the act of running across the border. It's also a crime to be found in America after you were previously ordered deported. That's another crime. Okay? But that's not what's happening here. So the parents, families are coming across the border. They're being caught. They're being separated. And now we have these children in these detention camps.
Wow.
And this is a crisis that is being created by Donald
that.
Trump. Okay? It is disgusting. It is beyond repulsive. It's embarrassing to be an American when you see and hear these things.
Absolutely.
So,
Totally.
ProPublica, they obtained an audio from inside the U.S. Customs and Border Protection facility in which children can be heard wailing
Wow.
as an agent
my God.
jokes in Spanish. We have an orchestra here.
Wow.
Oh my God.
The recording adds real-life sounds of suffering to the contentious zero-tolerance policy debate It was recorded last week inside a U.S. Customs and Border Protection detention facility, and the person who made the recording asked not to be identified for fear of retaliation. The person who made the recording estimated that all of the children that you're going to hear on this recording are between the ages of 4 and 10 years old. Now, more than 2,300 children have been separated from their parents since April. Both Democratic and Republicans have spoken out against this. Former First Lady George Bush's wife spoke out against it.
Oh, right.
Bushes have all spoken out against it.
Right.
Clintons have spoken out against it. Every living president that's still alive has spoken out against it.
Wow.
Obama.
Right.
Okay, there's not a former president who's alive who has not spoken out against this. Many Republicans, even Melania Trump has spoken out against it,
Really?
but blame the Democrats.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there's nobody who says this is good.
Right.
Okay, but Melania is blaming the Democrats. The Democrats don't run the Department of Homeland Security.
No.
It's run by Donald Trump
Right.
and Jeff Sessions. Okay, and what they're doing is they're creating this crisis to create a humanitarian crisis and using these children as a bargaining chip so Donald Trump can build his wall that the Mexicans were supposed to pay for.
Right.
That now the children of Central America are paying for in their own tears
Right.
for Donald Trump's political gain.
Right.
Even Attorney Jeff Sessions says the Bible says he's allowed to do it. Remember we talked about
We did
that.
talk
Right.
about that.
So let's listen. It's very difficult to listen to this, so I'm giving people fair warning. If you want to lower your volume, it is extraordinarily difficult to listen to the desperate sobbing of what is estimated to be 10 Central American children separated from their parents last week by immigration authorities at the border. It's excruciating to listen to. I listened to it earlier today. Many of them are crying so hard they can barely breathe. They scream, "Mommy, Papa," over and over again,
Wow.
as those are only the words that they may even know how to speak in
Right.
English. And then there's the baritone voice of a Border Patrol agent who's joking, "Well, we have an orchestra here. Who is the conductor?" The child who stood out the most was Alison Jimena Valencia Madrid. She is absolutely distraught. She's a 6-year-old girl from El Salvador. She's pleading repeatedly for someone to call her aunt.
Oh
When she came to the border, she memorized her aunt's telephone number
Wow.
just in case this situation would happen. And it did. And she's just begging on her knees. You'll hear it in a second. Just one call. Please, somebody listen to me.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And she said she's memorized the phone number and at one point even rattles it off to the Border Patrol agent. "My mommy says that I'll go with my aunt," she's crying and wailing, "and that she'll come to pick me up there as quickly as possible." So nobody from Border Patrol called the aunt. But this got out, and then concerned U.S. citizens called the aunt because you can hear the telephone number.
Oh, wow.
And this is now and then the aunt found out about this.
Wow.
So let's hear this, and I'm telling you in advance, it is very heart-wrenching. I'm giving you fair warning. You may want to lower this. This is a true recording of what happened at the detention center. This is one of 2,300 children. All have very similar stories. Let's listen.
Ay, con mi tía por lo menos para que después llegue mi mami.
¿Me puedes abrir alguien cerró la puerta esa?
Quiero que me venga a traer mi tía para llevarme a la casa de
Ella llama a tu tía si tú tienes número y habla con tu tía.
Tengo el número de
Ah, pues ahorita ella te ayuda para que hable. Cálmate nada más.
No, papá.
Voy por aquí, niña.
Papá,
Cuando saquen la comida.
voy a llamar a mi tía para que después de comer me venga a recoger.
Cuando agarren la comida yo voy a venir para que le...
Ay, no, papá. Tengo el número yo de memoria, 34, 34. Voy a llamar al menos a mi tía para que me venga a recoger. Ay, no, papá. Y Y después para que llegue mi mami lo más pronto posible. Y mi mami después que me venga a traer mi tía va a venir lo más pronto posible para irme con ella.
So concerned U.S. citizens called the aunt, and unfortunately, this little girl is still in jail
Oh my
because
Wow.
the aunt has filed for political asylum. She has not been approved yet,
Wow.
and
Oh,
she's
man.
scared to go to the border to go pick up her niece because for fear that she will herself be deported
Right.
with her own child.
Wow.
So it turns out that the parents and the sister worked for a very long time. I don't know the length of time, but worked a very, very long time to scrape together $7,000 that they paid a smuggler to take them from El Salvador through Guatemala, Mexico, and across the border to the United States.
Mm.
It's a lot of money to put together
That's a lot of
for
money.
poor people from El Salvador.
Yeah.
Right.
They paid the smuggler, they got caught. Now the parents are being charged criminally,
Wow.
and this child is distraught in this detention center. I read recently, today, in the New York Times, an article that they were interviewing psychologists and psychiatrists, and they were saying that there is study after study after study that children who are in detention centers, children who are separated from their parents by force in these situations all over the world, they've studied this, have traumatic psychological damage for their entire life.
Yeah.
This child will suffer, even if she's released tomorrow to her parents, for the rest of her life for Donald Trump's wall.
Mm.
Now, the aunt said, I know she's not an American citizen of the niece, the child who was crying,
Right.
but she's a human being, she's a child. How in the world can they treat her this way? Now, Donald Trump, he said it's the Democrats that are to blame because they're the ones that are forcing me to separate parents from their children because, and I'm quoting Donald Trump, the Democrats want illegal immigrants to infest our country.
Infest like
Infest.
they're roaches.
Infest our country. That how more dehumanizing can you call a minority or an immigrant, but but basically to allege infest sounds like it's the vermin. Rats.
Cockroaches.
Cockroaches.
It's. Oh, that's. I really
Yeah.
can't wrap my brain around the fact that that's happening in this country. It feels incredibly un-American, even though it is happening.
And that
It's
is what
disgusting.
that is what's happening with immigration. So we all pray for the children's well-being, for the parents' well-being. We pray that this stops immediately,
Right.
and hopefully, our political system works. It's not working right now, but hopefully our political system works in November, and hopefully these children can survive until then.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot you can do. There's not a lot you can do other than protest and raise what's going on.
Yeah, and it is a little bit heartwarming to see how much protest there has been and how active people are being in protesting such an atrocity. We saw the Father's Day and we talked about that yesterday, and so
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that it has to be done.
But in all reality, what will protests do? Like, I don't feel like it's going to change
No,
what
Martin Luther King changed the world with protest.
Yeah,
It's
but
not, but protest don't. One protest by one person can turn into a second protest by two people tomorrow,
Right.
can turn into a third protest by three people the next day, and eventually can turn into a movement. But one protest on one day never changed the world, but a lot of people protesting every day has. And there's plenty of historical data. But unfortunately, protests take time. Civil rights and civil disobedience and protests for your civil rights take time. It doesn't happen overnight, and that's what's sad.
Yep.
and that is what is said.
Yeah.
I really hope people go out and vote in November.
Yes, I hope so
Really
too.
hope
I
so.
pray. I
Yep.
pray.